Hi everyone, welcome to A Muggle's Guide to Hogwarts, where we are exploring the Harry Potter series with the ultimate Muggle, someone who has never read the books, never read the
movies.
She never read the movies. She's never seen the books. Completely has no idea what books are or movies.
Yeah, I've never seen a book.
That's Becki.
Yeah, that's me. I've seen books. I just want to be clear.
She's seen a couple books.
Yeah.
And actually, she has seen a couple Harry Potter books too. She's read through the first two Harry Potter books.
Yep.
But now we're in season 3 of this podcast, and we're reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Mm-hmm.
Which
cool
is
title.
Yeah, I know. You mentioned that last time.
It's still cool.
Because it reminds you of Arkham Asylum from
It's
Batman.
still cool. In fact, I actually think the name is cooler than Arkham's. You got a Z, you got a K. They're right next to each other. That's crazy.
Just wait until you hear more and learn more about what Azkaban actually is.
Are there any other words with a Z and a K right next to each other?
Abracazabra.
No. Okay. This is an interesting start. All right.
So last episode was our first episode of season 3, and Becki made predictions for chapters 1, 2, and 3 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. In this episode, we're going to walk through those chapters, talk about what happened, discuss a few cool things, and see if her predictions were right or wrong, or maybe somewhere in the middle. And then Becki is going to make predictions for the next 3 chapters of the book.
So I read the first 3 chapters of this book.
Yeah, how'd you feel about them? Was it a good introduction? What were your thoughts overall about the chapters?
Sure. Yeah, it was a lot of review. And maybe that's just normal. Like the whole first chapter I feel like was kind of like if you had never read the first 2 books, it was just giving you a lot of the information you needed for the story. You know what I mean? Like it was just a lot of recap. But that was fine. That was good. It's been a few months, so it was probably good for me to get back into it.
Yeah, I think for most books, for most Harry Potter books, the first little bit is recap.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely that way for the second one, for the third one. And I think pretty much for all of them, it's like, hey, here's Harry Potter. He's a wizard. He hates his Muggle family. He likes Hogwarts. His parents are dead. Voldemort's around, like that kind of thing to set the stage. Mm-hmm. And I think she wrote it that way initially, so you could start wherever. Or maybe it was just...
Or also, if someone was reading the books as they were coming out, there's probably like a year in between each book, right? So if you read them really quick, like if you were like Hallie from our bonus episode who read it in a few days, you'd have to wait another year. So maybe you kind of needed the recap.
Yeah, and actually reading it this time, she does a really good job. J.K. Rowling does a good job of pointing out things that are going to be relevant in this book.
Yeah, I guess so. But in a way, I feel like that kind of spoils it a little bit. It's like in TV shows when they're like previously on whatever, and then they show really obscure things, and you're like, okay, well now I know that's important. Otherwise you wouldn't have brought it up again, instead of like being a little more surprised.
I think it's more subtle in the books. Like I pick up on it because I know what's going to happen, and you know I know what's important and what is less important. But I don't think you probably picked up on most of it.
Well, I guess we'll see with my predictions.
I guess we're gonna see.
Yeah. So Owl Post. So he's back at the Dursleys.
So Outpost is the first chapter.
Yeah.
And it's a big recap.
Oh, it sounds like Outpost.
Yeah, but I don't think it's supposed to.
Oh, okay.
It's Owl Post. Not a ton happens in this chapter. This is the recap chapter.
Yeah.
And Harry turns 13. Well, first off, he starts off in his bed trying to study magic and write an essay.
Oh, yeah, and he's writing with a quill, which I was curious about. Like, why can't they just use regular pens?
Because they don't use Muggle technology.
Okay, so quill it is.
They've never used a pen.
They've never used a pen?
No. And even like you've seen the first two movies, it's all quills.
Oh, I guess I didn't really notice.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's always quills. They always have an ink pot. And in the first book, when he got his, his list of school supplies that he needed,
Mm-hmm.
I think quill was on there. Maybe.
Whenever he was writing in the diary, was it a quill?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. So
Because
he's
remember,
writing.
he'd blot ink on the page and the ink would disappear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so he's writing this essay, but like in secret. Also, summer homework. Did you have summer homework growing up?
No, not at all.
We had like reading lists, maybe.
Yeah, that was the only thing.
I can't really remember. I also
Maybe that's a British thing.
Maybe it's a British thing. Yeah, I don't remember having like essays and things to write over the summer, but I'm trying to think back to like my homeschool. I think my mom did have like stuff she wanted us to learn or do over the summer, but I don't know.
I guess for Hogwarts, it makes a little bit more sense because a lot of the teachers are just consistent, right? Like he's going to go back and he's going to have potions with Snape and he's going to do transfiguration with McGonagall. And this essay he's writing is for History of Magic with Professor Binns, who is that ghost professor.
Gotcha.
So I guess they can get away with assigning stuff over the summer because you're just going to go back and have the same teacher.
Well, last episode, I predicted that Harry was going to have a little more authority in the house, possibly. Yeah. Like he wasn't going to be so like abused and beaten down and trapped in his room, but that does not seem like it's the case. And so Harry just seems really sad and like he's just like waiting, counting down the days, waiting for the school year to start again, which I kind of relate to. It's going to be so nerdy, but like I didn't really like summers as a kid. I preferred being in school. Is that weird?
I don't think it's super normal.
Well, I think it's because by the time I finally went to school in 8th grade, I think we covered this in the very first episode, how I was like homeschooled and then I was like really wanted to go to school. And I was for a couple of years like begging my parents to let me go to public school. And finally they did in 8th grade. So that's when I like went to middle school for the first time. And I think I had just been like, kind of like Harry, like deprived of having like friends and a social life. And, like I'm an extrovert. Like I just enjoyed that outlet of going to school and getting away from my parents and my 6 siblings. Like I just enjoyed that so much that, yeah, during the summers, I was usually like babysitting either like my little brothers or neighbor kids or whatever. But I was just like, I just wanted to go back to school. I just felt more like who I was. So I can really relate to Harry in this because like he doesn't feel like he can be who he is while living at the Dursleys.
I understand that completely. And I think there were definitely times when I felt like that. I had a very different home life, and I look forward to summer break very much. And also, it's, was a time to be with my friends and run around and do crazy things. And so I liked it a lot. But I also really did like school. I liked homework when I was really young. I really liked homework.
I felt like so official.
I can understand that.
Like I felt like I like had a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I get to come home and do something.
I'm important.
The other thing that you got right in your prediction was about letters relating to his birthday, I think. Because his birthday's over the summer, and in the first
July 31st, I think.
Yes. And in the second book, in the Chamber of Secrets, all of his letters and everything from his friends don't arrive because they're being held hostage by Dobby. And in this one, he gets a few letters in this chapter. 3 owls arrive all at the same time.
Owls. Aren't like 2 owls carrying the old owl? Errol is like the kind of like old falling apart owl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Errol is in the second book.
He is. I just forgot.
I forgot too.
Yeah, so he gets, well, first, can we talk about the phone call? Because that was like the most hilarious part in the first chapter where Ron was, using the telephone for the first time, I guess, because wizards don't need to use rudimentary things. Rudimentary? Rudimentary things like telephones, right?
Yeah, they don't know how to use telephones.
Because what would they do instead? Just like flu powder over there?
There's a lot of other ways of communicating.
Okay.
And we'll learn about some of them as the series goes on.
Gotcha.
But I think it's like just send an owl or like, yeah, use flu powder or something.
Sure. So he calls the Dursley house and they're like screaming at each other because he doesn't understand. And that scene was pretty funny to me.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get to talk to Harry, right? Because his Vernon
Ron?
is so mad.
Yeah, Uncle Vernon shouts at him and tells him to never contact them again. And then Ron figures out that they got in trouble. Oh, another thing that happens in this chapter is we learn that Ron's family won the lottery or something.
This was so funny.
They won like 700 galleons, which is a ton of money. And they go to Egypt.
Yes, which is so cool. Just thinking about them in Egypt. Also, just because I want to go to Egypt. But they spend all of their money to go on this trip, which is fine. They can do whatever they want with their money. But it's just funny because they've painted this picture of like, oh, their house is falling apart and they don't have any money. And then they win this money and then they go on a trip.
Not only do they like not have any money, in this first chapter, their family is described as incredibly poor.
Mm-hmm.
Like those words are written down in the book, incredibly poor. And Ron writes a letter and Harry gets it and it says, we won 700 galleons. We took a trip to Egypt to visit my brother who's he works for Gringotts Bank. And
Gringotts came back and I was like, this Gringotts, there's going to be something here. There's some big conspiracy.
And he's like, we spent most of the 700 galleons on this trip. And then my mom's buying me a wand because my wand's broken.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that the best use of funds? They're getting by, I guess.
Maybe. Trips are memories, It's worth it.
And maybe they haven't seen their brother in a while.
Yeah, maybe they just really wanted to see their son. But yes, back to what Harry actually gets. He gets gifts from Ron and Hermione, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't get any gifts from the Dursleys, which I'm disappointed. This is the second time that we've gone through a Harry Potter birthday, and you talked up in the first book how like it's a theme that they give him really awful presents.
They do.
But they haven't gotten him anything the last two books.
They give him awful presents for Christmas. They always ignore his birthday, but they give him awful presents for Christmas.
That's not what we said the first book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he got a coat hanger for his birthday that time, and I thought that was the funniest thing. and you were like, "Oh, it's like a theme." He gets really awful birthday presents. So every book.
I meant Christmas presents.
Okay, every book I've been excited about, like what.
Yeah, you have to wait for like the middle of the book, and then you'll.
Did they get? I don't remember any Christmas presents.
Yeah, they get him like really, really tiny things, like
Barbie clothes,
like a button.
Oh.
Like really pointless things.
Okay.
Barbie clothes. So from Ron, he gets what's something called a sneakoscope.
Oh yeah.
Which can determine if someone is lying or hiding something or being untruthful around you.
Right. That's
it like lights up and spins. I don't really know what it looks like.
Didn't it kind of look like a top?
Oh yeah, it's like a spinning top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just rests on its little point. And then I guess it activates or something when someone's lying.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's handy.
That's really neat. But then Hermione gives him like a really thoughtful, well put together gift. I like that Hermione does this. She picks out like a good gift for him, and it's like a broom repair kit, right? Or like a
Yeah, it's like I think it's a broomstick servicing kit.
That's right. But like to take care of his like Nimbus 2000, like something that's really important to him. Like that's a really good, thoughtful gift, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. That's like a gift that you would give someone?
Yeah, I would think about like what's important to them and then try to do something.
You're
with that.
you're very good at giving very thoughtful gifts.
Yes.
I try to be. I think I'm more of a practical gift giver sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be very thoughtful and think of like interests and something that would be fun. I like to give experiences as gifts.
You do.
Yeah, I like to
Which is nice.
yeah, buy tickets for something or plan a trip or something like that. But yes, that was a very thoughtful gift from Hermione.
Yeah.
Hagrid gives a gift too, right? Do you remember
Oh,
what it was?
Yeah. Hagrid gives a gift, and Harry's like worried it's some kind of like dragon or something because it's like gnashing around.
Yeah.
But it's a monster book.
Yeah.
It's like a book monster thing. It's like an alive.
It's called
book.
The Monster Book of Monsters.
Yeah.
And it's a book, but it's actually like a live book. It's a book that is alive, and it like tries to bite Harry, and then it scuttles under the bed.
Oh yeah, we don't ever really see it again.
Well, Harry takes a belt and he like wraps it around and he ties the belt around it so it can't bite him. And that's the last we've heard of it.
Okay. But maybe it's in the trunk that he brings. I feel like, I don't know. I want to see more of this monster book. Okay, and then there's this whole thing about this Hogsmeade permission slip, right? That third years are allowed to go to this village. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the other owl is an owl from Hogwarts, and he brings his letter of like, this is what you need to buy for school.
Yeah, it's a tawny owl, I think, right?
I don't remember.
I think that's my favorite kind of owl.
But it brings this list, and in the list in the letter is also enclosed this permission form to go to Hogsmeade, which is an all-wizard village that's pretty close to the school. It's like walking distance from the school. So only wizards live there.
Mm-hmm.
But you need permission. So third years and above at Hogwarts are allowed to go there, but you need permission from your parents or guardian to actually go there.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I didn't even really bring this up last time, but I definitely thought it. Like, I thought it was like a little too obvious to bring up. I don't know. I thought that the Hogsmeade permission slip, like, I thought Hogsmeade was what it was made out of.
Oh.
Like, I thought it was like a certain kind of like parchment made out of like pig hide or something.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh yeah. Like, so this whole time I thought that the Hogsmeade was going to be like the material that it was made out of.
This is why I don't give you like too much information.
Yeah.
This is like the thoughts of someone who makes a lot of things out of fabric.
Yeah. I was like, ooh, what's Hogsmeade?
I've never heard of that fabric before.
Like a magical leather.
No, Hogsmeade is a place.
It's a place.
It's only has wizards in it. I think it's the only little village that is made entirely out of wizards. Like it's the only all wizarding
made
village.
Out of wizards. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, don't picture that.
Got it. And then we have chapter 2, which is called Aunt Marge's Big Mistake.
Aunt Marge's big mistake. Yep.
Yeah. This chapter is interesting. So Marge comes to visit, and she was Uncle Vernon's sister, not Aunt Petunia's sister, which I should have known.
It's interesting that you thought it was Aunt Petunia's sister.
Well, so to be honest, I kind of actually didn't, but I thought that I thought introducing this character and having this big mistake, like I thought she had to be tied to the family more.
Because like a lot of the mistakes are connected with Harry and his side of the family?
No, I think just in order to move the story forward, in order to get more information about Harry's past, I just thought she'd have to be a little more connected to the Potters.
Right.
But It didn't, I think I even said, like, I don't know if that checks out, because if there was, like, if his mom had another sister, like, I feel like she would have been talked about already, or maybe Harry would be there. I don't know. So, Yeah, I got that wrong. But she was there. She was annoying. She brought her bulldog, not her Great Dane, bulldog named Ripper, right? Ripper. And just more of the same. She got like wasted at dinner.
She's like a horrible human being.
She's a horrible person.
She's like even worse than the Dursleys.
Right. So she gets totally hammered and starts like spouting nonsense about Harry's family and his parents and the car crash they died in and like all of this stuff. And it's totally rude and totally inappropriate.
And meanwhile, Harry is trying to stay well behaved.
Right. To get the permission slip
Right.
signed.
He wants the permission slip signed. So he kind of made this deal with Uncle Vernon. He was like, I'll pretend that I'm normal and then I go to this school that beats me all the time.
Yeah. The school for the incurable criminal boys.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Smeltings. Was it called Smeltings? No, it's not called Smeltings. That's a different school. It's oh no. St. Brutus's. That's what it is.
Brutus.
St. Brutus's. It wasn't a school. It was like I don't know. Whatever.
Do you want me to look it up?
St. Brutus's Secure Center for Criminally Incurable Boys.
I don't think that's it.
I think that's it.
Secure Center. That's what you're gonna go with.
Yeah, Becky's looking it up right now.
I have some news.
What is it?
St. Brutus's Secure Center for Incurably Criminal Boys.
Told you.
Sorry, you were right. You were right.
Yeah, so there's like he has to convince Aunt Marge that he goes to just this horrible institution where he's beaten all the time, and she literally asks him if he's beaten all the time.
And then he's like playing into it. He's like, yeah, all the time. And she's like, okay, yeah. Like, it's like a little bit weird. Also, something from the first chapter, sorry, just to jump back real quick, that I found really interesting was they were kind of like tying it into the Salem witch trials. At one point, they were like, oh, like these witches used to get burned at the stake during this time, but it's okay. They actually kind of liked it. Like,
yeah. What
the heck? Like, these witches were getting off on getting burned at the stake.
Yeah.
because of some like flame freezing spell they could do. So that's going to be important. That was actually my first note for the chapter. I wrote that down.
You think the flame freezing spell is going to come back in some way?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Interesting. Yeah.
Anyway, so
Aunt Marge is just a horrible human being.
Yeah.
Is insulting Harry and his family, like basically calls him a dog and calls his family dogs, and she talks about how I guess she's a dog breeder and how she's had to like drown dogs and do a bunch of stuff when they're not actually.
I did not pick up on that. She said that?
Yeah. When they're not like bred well.
Oh.
Yeah, she's horrible.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that's awful.
Harry can't take it.
Yeah, Harry can't take it. So does he kind of on purpose do it or on accident?
I think it's on accident. He doesn't even realize he's doing it.
And so his magic is seething out of him.
Yeah, and that's what happens when wizards, when they're young and they're not really educated, like magic comes out in really emotional moments.
Yeah, well, that happened all during his childhood too.
Yeah.
Right, like with the haircut and the sweater.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's happening again because he doesn't like have his wand on him.
No, everything's like locked under the stairs.
So she starts ballooning.
Yeah.
Very, what's the blueberry one in Willy Wonka?
What's her name?
Not Veruca Salt. The other one, Violet Beauregard.
Yeah.
Very Violet Beauregard.
She blows up.
Yes.
Very circular.
Uh-huh.
She floats up to the ceiling.
Yeah. And then Harry does exactly what I said in my predictions. And he's like, nah, guys, I'm good. I'm out. And he grabs his trunk and he runs away. And I love a good orphan runaway story. So I was like, yes, he's out on his own. Let's go.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
I was so impressed that you're like, he's going to run away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Although you thought he was going to run away because of some big secret that was revealed.
Yeah.
About him or his family. Mm-hmm. So that didn't happen.
No.
But he did run away because he was like, fuck this. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I would too.
He assumes he's going to get expelled by the Ministry of Magic because he used magic. And in the last book, in the Chamber of Secrets, he got a warning because he didn't even do the magic in the last one. It was Dobby.
Right.
But he got blamed for it. And so he's like, for sure, I'm going to get expelled. I might as well just run away and try and live on my own somewhere.
Yeah.
And so he runs out.
I used to pretend to do that all the time. Like ride my bike and be like, I'm running away. Yeah, I'm an orphan.
I know. Yeah. You've mentioned that several times. It makes me sad.
I know. It's just so funny. I just thought it would be so cool.
I think that's pretty much it for chapter 2.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I guess he goes upstairs to get his trunk. He runs away and his owl cage, but his owl's not there. He kind of like sent the owls away. He was like, yeah, go.
That was like
play.
The one thing that the Dursleys let him do was let Hedwig like roam free.
Yeah.
Because Hedwig was making a racket when she wasn't able to fly.
Right.
And so, yeah, he ran upstairs. Oh, no, he wrote a letter at some point. Like some point during the week when Aunt Marge was there, he wrote a letter to Ron, I think, and sent Errol and Hedwig out just to go away. And so they're not there, but he grabs the cage, he grabs all of his stuff, and he
heads out.
Gets out.
Right. And then he's like...
He doesn't quite know where to go. He just kind of runs out of the house and then sits down on the curb.
Well, he trips over his trunk and he falls. Because I had to reread this because I was a little confused. So I reread it this morning. Because he falls, but he has his wand, like he reaches his wand out as he falls, and that, I guess, is the cue for the night bus to stop.
Yeah.
But he's also falls because he sees something big coming at him. So I'm not entirely sure still, but it doesn't really matter. The night bus stops.
But wait, let's talk about this thing that he sees, right? So I
thought it was the bus.
Well, he's sitting there and he sees something in an alleyway. And it scares him. And maybe he trips. He trips maybe right before that and puts his wand arm out, which calls the night bus. But then he tries to see what this thing is.
Oh, I totally thought he saw the bus, got scared, and tripped and fell.
No, that's a different thing. The bus kind of appears with a loud bang, but he sees some big dark shadow.
Okay.
And he goes up to it and he can see the glint of two eyes. And then the night bus appears with a bang.
See, and I thought those were headlights.
Oh, I see.
I did not get that these were two different things. I thought he was like seeing this shadowy figure, seeing these two eyes, and it turns out it was a bus that he just didn't expect because it's the middle of the night.
No, this is something else.
Okay.
And it comes back later, so remember that.
Okay.
And then the night bus appears out of nowhere.
Yes.
And I guess that's the start of chapter 3.
Yeah, that's chapter 3. And he meets these fun characters, I guess. Stan Shunpike? Shunpike?
Yeah, Stan Shunpike. Who is not a professor.
He's not a professor.
He works for the night bus. I guess he's the conductor.
But he's like only like a teenager.
Yes, he's like 19.
He's like 19 or whatever.
And pimply faced.
Yeah, and glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that and I was like, man, J.K. Rowling just has like a few things, like physical things that she assigns to everyone. It's like, you're either fat, you have acne, because didn't Myrtle have like acne or something?
Oh, I don't know.
I think that she described her as pimply. Like, she's just like, okay, if you're like kind of weird or kind of gross, you're fat or you have acne. Got it. Like, it's kind of...
And do you remember Aunt Marge was also super fat?
Yeah,
and she kept saying, like, she pointed her fat finger. And
right. Well, and even Dudley, every single book, she describes him as like fatter and fatter. Like he can no longer walk from the kitchen to the TV.
He only waddles.
In like 5 yeah, it's just like extreme. But yeah, so sorry. Stan Shunpike.
He's pimply.
He's pimply. He has like a more Cockney accent. Is that what you would say?
Well,
it's just written in an interesting way. And Harry lies about his name. He says he's Neville Longbottom.
Because he thinks at this point, he thinks he's like running
They're out
from
to
the
get
law.
him. Yeah, he's like a fugitive.
So he's like, I'm Neville.
Rude, but okay. And then there's also the bus driver named Ernie.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are wearing a suit of armor, which I was disappointed.
I know. I was going to ask you if you remembered what you predicted.
Why would there be a night bus without a knight on it?
And I'll just I'm sure most of you listening know this, but the night bus is Knight.
Right.
It's night. Knigget.
Like Monty Python.
Night. And I don't really understand why.
Because I predicted it was like medieval times or like a Renaissance fair or something. I feel like she missed an opportunity here, honestly. Like there could have been some more cool.
Well, you predicted some fanfare because you thought it would be very medieval times. Mm-hmm. There was a little bit of fanfare, like it pops out of nowhere with a loud bang, and then Stan Shunpike hops off and he's like, "Welcome to the night bus for an abandoned witcher wizard that needs us." And he goes through this whole thing. So there's a little bit of fanfare, but it's not like what you were thinking.
It wasn't quite as thematic as I was hoping, but there's beds, there's cool candles. Like it seems like a cool bus.
Yeah,
if you need to get some sleep.
Cool. It's also a triple-decker bus.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they call it a triple-decker. So there's, I guess, vertically a lot of room in it. Have you ever ridden in a double-decker bus?
I don't know.
I've been on some. I don't know if I've ever been on a double decker.
Yeah, I don't know if I have.
I've been on some large buses, but
I
don't think they were double decker buses.
Yeah, I don't think so because they had them in LA and stuff, but they're very touristy. I was on some big bus in Peru, but once again, I don't think it was double decker.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of room in this bus, and they pop off to Wales. There's other witches and wizards on the bus. So they pop off to Wales. They go to a couple different locations. And the entire time, Harry and Stan are talking about
this escaped convict who Harry heard even on the Muggle news, right? It was on in the Dursleys' home. And then now he's seeing it in a newspaper from the magic side of it. He's learning more about who this serious black character is and that he's escaped and he's extremely dangerous and he's mad. There's a lot of mad, insane, lunatic language going on, which I think I kind of alluded to some of that. Azkaban kind of seems like it's a psychiatric ward kind of place. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of talk about that going on. So I feel like that's going to be important. Is he insane? Is he not? He kills 13 people with one spell and then just laughs about it. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And then the night bus finally gets to the Leaky Cauldron where, again, you predicted this right. Harry's trying to get to Diagon Alley and so he drops him off the Leaky Cauldron, and who's there waiting for him?
Willy Wonka.
Mr. Cornelius Fudge himself.
Yes.
And he whisks him off to a room.
But he's being weirdly nice to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry knows that it's not really adding up. Why is the head honcho of Ministry of Magic looking for me, this kid? This doesn't seem right. And then Cornelius Fudge is all is forgiven. You didn't do anything wrong. It was an accident. Sets him up in a room for 2 weeks at the Leaky Cauldron. Cornelius Fudge seems shady. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, why do you think he's being so nice?
I don't know. They're either covering something up that like maybe like Harry knows, but he doesn't know he knows kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's about where it ends, right?
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say. I think I predicted that Sirius Black was maybe like a werewolf or some kind of dog wolf thing.
Based on his name,
Based on his name. But then Harry's looking at him in the newspaper and says something about, well, that's a vampire if I've ever seen one. So now I don't know. Now I'm confused. Because I feel like if he was a werewolf, he'd be like very hairy.
Yeah,
but
the picture, they describe him as like pretty gaunt-faced, pale.
Waxy skin.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm going to have to see.
Okay, so we got a vampire werewolf thing going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much how it ends with Harry and the Leaky Cauldron.
Yeah,
right?
He's like, cool, I get to stay here for 2 weeks until school starts.
Yeah.
I'm excited for him.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Okie dokie.
So in these first 3 chapters, Harry's birthday is pretty important. And in the beginning, I guess, of every book so far, Harry's birthday has been pretty important, pretty prominent. It's his 13th birthday this time. He's turning 13.
Yeah.
Do you remember your 13th birthday? Do you have any, or like, do you remember what happened? Was it a good birthday? Was it a bad birthday?
Actually, yeah, I do remember it. I do remember this particular birthday and birthday party. Because I think I had just 13. I would have turned 13 in 8th grade. So I think I would have just started going to school again.
Right. Because you were homeschooled for a lot.
Yeah. I think I think you turned 13 in 8th grade because I know I turned 14 in high school. Or maybe I was already 14.
I think you're 14 when you go into high school. And then you are, a lot of 9th graders are 15.
Okay. I'm slightly old for my grade, but actually that checks out. I think maybe I wasn't in school yet, but I remember the birthday party itself very well. It was like a pretty good one in my opinion. We had in the town I grew up in, we had one of those like really run down, falling apart, like dollar movie theaters. Did you have one of those?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, they were so much fun. You know, you could go see a movie for $1 and with a family of 8, like that's a pretty big deal. So we hardly ever saw movies unless it was at this dollar theater. It's called the Silver Screen in Pensacola, Florida. I don't think it exists anymore. But one thing you could do is like rent out a movie theater room for like not that much money, right? Because like how much money are they really going to make off of it? Like especially for like a matinee or something. Like I think you could rent the whole theater for like, I don't know, $30 or something like that.
Cool.
So I remember for my 13th birthday, we rented out the movie theater and we watched Jurassic Park 3. Which was so much fun. It was such a great memory. I love all the Jurassic Park movies. Yes, I love the second one and it's terrible. Yes, I love the third one and it's terrible. I still love them. I don't care. And so I remember having rented out that theater, and I think it was mostly like my friends from church or something, I guess, because I don't think I was in school yet. But yeah, we probably had like 15 of us just running around this theater to ourselves watching Jurassic Park 3. That was a pretty good one.
That's amazing.
Yeah. What about you? Do you remember your 13th birthday?
Oh,
it's like first year as a teenager. It's kind of a big deal.
I honestly don't know. Yeah, I think I was in 7th grade. That was an interesting time for me too, because I went to public school my whole life. I was never homeschooled. But I did transition schools a few times. Like there was a school that was built closer to where I was living. And it was weird. Like the elementary school opened first, and then the middle school opened, and then the high school opened. So for my 5th grade year, I moved schools. So I never like completed like all like middle school or elementary school. I never completed at the same school.
Oh, gotcha.
So for my 8th grade year, I changed schools. So that was kind of like a weird kind of hectic time where I was like meeting new people and making new friends. I don't really remember my 13th birthday really well. But I do remember a couple of birthdays when I was younger really well. My mom and my dad were really good at throwing like cool themed parties for me when I was younger, when I was like in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, and also my sister's birthday is very close to mine. We're just a couple days apart. And so we would often, when we were younger, we would have kind of combined birthday parties where I would have all my friends over, she would have all her friends over. And they were like they were happening at the same time. They were kind of connected, but they're also kind of separate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a couple of really cool themed parties where one I remember was a spy party.
Oh.
And it was awesome. And we would like all dress up. We would have like different things to wear to look like spies.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were like little stations around our house where we were like solving a puzzle or a mystery or something. And I remember my grandfather made a lie detector where it was just like a coat hanger that was wrapped around it and connected to a circuit. And then you had a little metal loop and you'd have to move it around the coat hanger. And if you touched the coat hanger with the metal loop, it would a light would light up. And so
like Operation?
Kind of, yeah.
Or like buzz you?
And this was like a way to test like how steady you were, like, and I guess if you were lying, you'd be more nervous and you'd be shaking and you had to have a harder time. And so I remember that. And one year we threw like a pirate birthday party where they literally buried treasure in my backyard.
Nice.
And we had to follow a map to go get it. So there's a lot of fun birthday parties when I was a lot younger.
That's super cool too, because that was also before like Pinterest and Instagram. Like your parents were just coming up with this stuff on their own.
I think they asked me. I think they're like, what kind of birthday party do you want? And, you know, me being a little kid, I was just like, pirates, yeah. I want to be a spy or something. And so
they... was like dinosaurs.
They just ran with it. But I honestly can't tell you what happened on my 13th birthday.
Okay, that's fine. Do you have any like really memorable gifts that you ever got on your birthday?
Oh, man.
Like something you had really wanted?
Oh, actually, this is really funny because this relates to this a little bit.
Okay.
One year, this might have been my 13th birthday, probably a little bit younger. But one year, my family completely surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember my friends showing up, like my best friends showing up to my house. And it was around my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very confused. I had no idea what was going on. And then we get in a car and we drive to something. We drive pretty far away to like a big theater. And we go to medieval times.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
And that was like my gift that year.
Serious?
Yeah, was going to see medieval times. It's the only time I've ever been.
Really?
And I don't know if anyone listening has been to medieval times, but it's like you go into this big
There's
kind
one
of
around
arena.
Here?
Yeah, there's one in Maryland somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And or at least there used to be. I don't know if it's still around. But you go into this big kind of arena and then there's a scripted kind of event that unfolds with knights and kings and they joust and you eat turkey legs and stuff, and it's fun.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like my big, really thoughtful gift, and it was a complete total surprise.
And it was a surprise party type thing. That's cool.
What about you? Any amazing gifts?
I think around this time, one gift that I remember like I really wanted, but I knew I couldn't ask for it because it was too much money, but somehow they figured it out. I ended up getting a telescope for one of my birthdays,
cool.
like around like 12 or 13, I think. And I was really, really excited to use it.
Awesome.
And I would like go out every night and like set up the telescope and
what is that? Was it a telescoping monocular?
No, no, it was just regular telescope.
Could you see the moon?
Could see the moon. It was not strong enough to see any like planets or stars or anything.
Well, that's
but
still really cool.
I thought it was pretty cool. I do remember that. That was a big surprise. Okay, I wanted to talk about something from these chapters.
Yeah.
Because there's, especially in the first chapter, there are 3 different kinds of owls. And owls are really cool. I mean, owls are throughout the Harry Potter universe, right? But owls are just super cool and fun. And I thought that you, being a biologist, might have some cool owl facts.
I know some stuff about owls. I'm not like an owl expert,
Yeah.
but I know a few facts about owls.
What do you have anything fun or weird?
Oh
you
man,
could share?
Fun or weird? Okay.
Or do you have a favorite type of owl?
This is kind of an embarrassing story, but there's an owl called a barred owl.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I have no idea why, I always would think of Shakespeare when I would hear barred owl.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it was BARD
Mm-hmm.
owl, but it's barred like stripes, like
Oh,
bars.
yeah.
And so it's a barred owl because it kind of has a barred pattern on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was embarrassing for me when I actually found out why it was called a barred owl. But yeah, there's some fun facts. Like I know that owls can rotate their heads pretty far around,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't rotate it all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
Owls fly really silently.
Yeah.
With like super silent flyers.
That's pretty cool.
So they're really good ambush predators. They have incredible eyesight. And another gross thing is a lot of owls spit up what's called owl pellets, which
Mhm.
is like after they eat something, they eat it whole. And so they eat a lot of kind of rodents like
Mhm.
moles and voles and things like that. And so they will, I guess, digest it and then they'll kind of compact this weird owl pellet and then they'll throw it up.
I do remember that.
They'll like regurgitate this owl pellet. And so you can find those literally if you like wander through the woods, you might find some owl pellets. And I used to, back when I was working in like environmental education, that would be an activity we would do is we would get owl pellets and dissect them so you could see what owls had eaten.
That's pretty gross.
They weren't real. They were fake.
Oh, they were fake?
They were fake owl pellets. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's less gross.
It's less gross, but it's still kind of cool. Do you have any owl facts?
I think so. I'm trying to remember. I recently listened to an episode of Armchair Expert, and they had an owl expert on, and it was actually very fascinating. If you are actually interested in owls, there was a lot of cool stuff on that episode. A couple things I remember was that owls' ears are slightly off center, like one's raised higher than the other one. And because of that, they're able to triangulate sound even better than we are. Like they'll know that something is 6 feet behind them and a foot off the ground or like something crazy like that, which I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. But I think my favorite fact from that episode was about owl sounds, and like some species of owls are like very vocal and have very unique callings and things like that. But that this one species of owl, I can't remember which one it is, but that even from when they are inside the egg, like they haven't been hatched yet, that they've learned to imitate a rattlesnake sound from inside the egg because
Whoa.
they have learned that predators will leave them alone if they make this rattlesnake sound, which I thought was so crazy.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Owls are pretty cool.
Owls are so cool.
Yeah.
Owls are so cool. And I like that they're very prominent in the book. And they also symbolize, a lot of cool things like wisdom and knowledge. And
that's true. They're wise, but they're also a little bit spooky.
Spooky wise.
Yeah, it fits. It's good.
Okay, are you ready to jump into the prediction section?
Indeed.
All right, for those of you that haven't been listening to our podcast before, Becki is now going to give predictions for the next 3 chapters of the book, but she's going to give predictions based on some information that I give her. So I'm going to tell her what the names of the next 3 chapters are. I'm going to tell her what the main characters are in those next 3 chapters that play some type of prominent or significant role. And I'm going to give her the names of the major locations that play a significant role in those 3 chapters. And new for this season, I'm also telling her some important tidbits of information or important curios that is either a fact, some piece of knowledge, or maybe it's some object that is important in those 3 chapters. And this is just so that she can get a firmer grip on what's actually happening. And for these things that might be really hard to predict, she can weave it into her predictions a little bit more easily. All right, let's get going. Chapter 4 is called The Leaky Cauldron. Chapter 5 is called The Dementor. And Chapter 6 is called Talons and Tea Leaves. The main characters, the major characters of these 3 chapters are Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger, Scabbers the Rat, Crookshanks the Cat, the Weasleys, J.R. Lupin, a Dementor, Professor McGonagall, Madame Pomfrey, Dumbledore, Draco Malfoy, Sir Cadogan, Professor Trelawney, Hagrid, and Buckbeak. And the main locations in these 3 chapters are Diagon Alley, the Leaky Cauldron, King's Cross Station, and platforms 9 3/4. Those kind of go hand in hand. The Hogwarts Express, Hogwarts Castle, Transfiguration class, and Care of Magical Creatures class. And then for the important curios section, I just have one thing, and it is the Grim in the Tea Leaves.
I'm going to do my best here. I feel like they cover a lot of ground in these chapters. So here we go. Okay. So Harry Potter is staying at the Leaky Cauldron, which I didn't realize was like an inn or hotel. I didn't know that you could stay there. I just thought it was a bar, but whatever. We established in this last chapter that he's staying in room 11. So he is at the Leaky Cauldron and he's like living it up. He's finally away from the Dursleys. He's getting to do things on his own time. I feel like he's like exploring a lot, and like maybe because he's small, he's like overhearing a lot of like grown-ups conversation. So he's like gathering information, but yeah, he just gets to like chill for 2 weeks, which is great because he deserves it. I also think that maybe because he has this time on his hands and it's like a really hot topic, current event thing, that he's getting kind of like obsessed with this Sirius Black case. But eventually his friends come, Ron and Hermione, because they're going to have to come to Diagon Alley to get their school supplies and their books. So they have a nice little reunion and he tells them all about his adventures. And Ron has his rat with him, Scabbers, who's kind of always there, right? Even in like the picture of them from Egypt, it was like, oh, and Scabbers the rat.
Yeah.
But he doesn't usually like do anything helpful. But anyway,
he's always around.
He's there. Scabbers is there, but we have this cat, Crookshank the cat. Maybe that's like the Leaky Cauldron, you know, like the shop cat or whatever. And maybe there's like a big fiasco with Scabbers and Crookshank. So they're visiting, they're catching up. All the Weasleys are there. It's very chaotic as it is when all the Weasleys are there and running around Diagon Alley trying to get their stuff. Then we have RJ. Did you say JR? RJ Lupin.
Did I say JR?
I think you did.
It's RJ.
RJ.
I might have done it wrong.
RJ Lupin, who's a new character. I'm going to guess that he or she is an author. Maybe I'm just doing that based on J.K. Rowling. RJ Lupin. It's like the same formula, but
I never noticed that.
But I mean, also, I think it's also just kind of like a very author thing to do, right? Like J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't know. Maybe they go into the bookstore, they meet this new author, and they learn maybe the author's written a book about the prison, like the prison, Azkaban. I don't know. That happens. So then somehow they all have to get to King's Cross Station. They got to go to platform 9 3/4. This whole deal again, because they have to kind of get like on their way to Hogwarts. It seems like they all get to Hogwarts. Hopefully I think it's probably less eventful than the last 2 times. They probably just kind of like get on the Hogwarts Express and then like, okay, cool. They're at Hogwarts now. All right. The next chapter is the Dementor. The
Dementor.
I am not sure what that means. I was trying to figure out what I thought this means. So the best I can come up with is I kind of think it's some kind of ghost, but in the way that like a poltergeist is a ghost that can mess with objects. I feel like a Dementor is maybe a ghost that can mess with your mind.
Okay.
because like I brought up, like there's kind of like a lot of talks about like madness and lunacy already in the book.
Right.
So I'm thinking that this Dementor can maybe like temporarily make you insane or out of your mind a little bit. That's kind of the best I can come up with for that.
Okay.
So they start classes, and I'm glad you just reminded me that Professor McGonagall was the Transfiguration class.
You're welcome.
I had written Dumbledore. I was like, maybe it's like a, you know, they're getting into these high level classes. But yeah, you're right. They had it last year too. I forgot. So Transfiguration, McGonagall's there, Dumbledore's around. Madame Pomfrey, I think, is the nurse. She's around. Draco's back, and he's like evil and whiny again. I wrote Sir Cardigan. What does that say?
Sir Cadogan.
Cadogan?
Yeah.
Not Sir Cardigan.
Nope. Sir Cadogan.
Does he at least wear cardigans?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think he wears.
If he does, you're going to be
Something
real
else.
embarrassed when we read
Yeah,
this
oh my goodness.
this week. He's around. I really don't know what he does.
Take a guess.
He is the new school janitor.
Okay. Who is the old school janitor?
Wasn't it the guy with the cat?
Yeah, what's his name?
Filch?
Filch. Yeah, Mr. Filch.
Mr. Filch.
So you think the new janitor is someone named Sir Cadogan?
I think it's someone named Sir Cardigan, but I'll settle for Sir Cadogan. But okay, so then we have this is a new class, right? Care of Magical Creatures class?
Yeah, this is a new one.
This is a new
for
one.
This year.
And I feel like Professor Trelawney, that sounds like a teacher of Care of Magical Creatures. And I also think / hope that Hagrid, because Hagrid loves animals and loves taking care of them, that he's like a teacher's assistant or something for this class, that he's like there helping out the professor. I think that would be cool. So he's teaching this Care of Magical Creatures class, and it's called Talons and Tea Leaves. So from the talons part, I was like, okay, so I think Buckbeak might be like a hawk or something cool like that. That's what I think of when I think of talons. It could be another owl, I guess. There's been a lot of owl things happening, but I'm going to go with a hawk. And then they have to read some tea leaves at some point. And from your important curios category, the Grim and the tea leaves. Okay, so what I'm thinking is that as part of some class, they have to do this tea leaf reading, which I'm not really sure what that actually entails. Don't you just like drink tea and then you look at the leaves after and like what kind of formation they're in? Like, I'm just saying, like in normal life.
Yeah,
how that works?
Something like that. Yeah.
So I think that they do that. They make tea, they drink it, and they look at what's left. But I'm picturing it kind of like how photographs in Hogwarts work, where they're like animated and more like living beings. So I'm thinking that they're like looking at the tea leaves and they're kind of like moving and animating and like acting something out.
Okay.
So that they do that. Maybe they do it with Harry Potter's and it's like really bad or really violent or something, and everyone gets kind of like spooked about it.
Gotcha.
That's what I got.
Okay. That's a tough one. This is, these first couple of chapters are pretty tough because the plot really hasn't taken off yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good. You did good with a lot of characters there. Thanks, Becki, for those predictions. We're going to go read those chapters now, and we'll be back next week with the next episode to talk about what actually happened. Was she right? Was she wrong? What did I forget to put on this list? I don't know. We'll talk about it all. And thank you guys so much for coming with us. We really appreciate you listening. Be sure to share, tell your friends and family about us. It really helps us get a little bit more noticed. We also have some social media platform stuff. We have an Instagram account, which is, what is it? Is it @Muggles? Guide.
Muggles Guide Podcasts.
Instagram is Muggles Guide Podcast, and then we have an Twitter or X account now called Muggles Guide. We also have a website called amugglesguide.com. That's where we're keeping all of these podcast episodes. So if you ever want to go back and listen to anything and can't find it wherever you listen to podcasts, you can go check it out there. But thank you. We're going to be back next week and talk about what actually happened, and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.